Welcome to part 2 of constructing the Alice dress. Today's focus will be putting together the pattern pieces from the last video and getting the dress into one piece. Because of the mix and match nature of the dress pattern, I take my time aligning the pieces perfectly before I start sewing. This process begins with a lot of pins. In fact, there will be a lot of pins throughout the video. Here we are today. Today will be a focus on getting all of these seams sewn, and I'm very happy with the color match on the thread. You can barely see it. I love that. So I went ahead and I test sewed one seam already off camera just to see how it would look. This ruffling here is intentional. All these patterns have this technique where you need to, where the curve of this front side panel is always has a deeper curve than its partner piece, the front center. So here's the front center, you can tell, and it's just flat on one side and totally wavy and wonky on the other. That has to do with the points on the pattern paper themselves. You have to match up those points really nicely to give it as much shape as possible. I've seen it a lot in my Renaissance vest patterns as well, and I hate it. It is my least favorite part of costume making, but just the more experience I get under my belt, the easier it is. So I've actually become quite good at it, and knocked this first seam out in about 20 minutes, so it worked out actually quite nicely. So the rest of the day I'll be focused on just getting the top all put together. It's an 8-panel top, so we have the center, the back center, and then the front side, back side, and they all just come together. It does tend to get complicated sometimes, which is why I'm not using my machine today. I feel like I would just lose control completely with hand stitching, especially when tackling these waves on these two front panels here. You have the best control, the most control with hand stitching. Over keeping these down, manipulating with your fingers as you go, as the needle goes through, and with my machine I would just have no control over that whatsoever, and this would become a mess. Not to mention the machine and I still aren't quite getting along, so this will be a completely hand-stitched project. Hopefully by the end of today I will have all of this complete and this will all be one piece. Normally, I save finishing for last, but in this case, every seam adjacent to the armhole must be finished before I attach the sleeve, so I do that now. With the armholes finished, I move on to the back center seams where the zipper will go. When I attach the skirt, these seams should align perfectly from the bodice down the skirt where the zipper will end. With the bodice seams finished, it comes time to experiment with the sleeves. The first thing I do is piece a panel onto the ends to both provide length and a tight fit to the biceps. This is me ironing the pieces around the raw edges, pressed, pinned, and sewn into place. The panels are added, and the next step is to achieve maximum poof. We do this by gathering the top of the sleeves. Okay, so I got a bit carried away with my needle, but what's new? So I return to the original plan, which is finish the ends of these sleeves. I keep the edges finished and open for the elastic I will add later. Notice how I align the sleeves to keep the length of each as precise as possible. Sewing the elastic channels onto the sleeves should look familiar. I used this stitch I invented from another project that was primarily royal blue. Finally, the sleeves are ready to be attached to the bodice. Well, so much for hand sewing, but now I'm on a time crunch. It might be worth it to take the risk, despite the machine's continued attitude. And finally, the moment I'm sure you haven't been waiting for, I finally attach the bodice to the skirt. This is the last attachment I will need to make. Of course, I start on both ends and work my way into the middle. This ensures that the attachment has even gathers on both sides.
Welcome to the channel, like and subscribe. Isn't that what YouTube wants us to say? Our lords and master at Google? Yeah,